senators in the back section. This is the Booker T. Washington Auditorium. I think it's a really nice space. And I was hoping it's closer. I think it's closer for most of you, and I think it's a neat building for you to get to know if you haven't been here before. Take a minute to walk around the hallways. There's lots of really interesting exhibits about the history of this building, of this site, which was the high school for a long time. Here's your there's the thing to scan for your URL to register your attendance. So we'll keep that up for a few minutes. Huh? Yeah, you still have to sign in. Okay, so we'll leave that up for a moment. And we'll put it back up at the end in case you were having difficulty with it. So welcome to the February 1st meeting of the Faculty Senate for the University of South Carolina. I'll hereby call this meeting to order. Oh goodness, thank you. Can I switch to the agenda? Or shall I'll leave this up for a few more minutes while we begin. So our first order of business are corrections to and approval of the minutes. Do we have any corrections of the minutes? No. Then I'd like to move to approve the minutes. Thank you. We had a second, I think. So not hearing any objection, we'll approve the minutes. So next on our agenda is a report from the president, Michael Amaritis. I'm glad you started walking up here a while ago.
That's right. We're close.
Do you
Good. Yeah. Fair warning for those of you who are going to come here, start a minute early because it takes that time and goes around to get up here. It was a very nice venue when we talked about the Civil Rights Center here a couple of months ago. And it was really moving to see how many members of the community, of the Black community here in Colombia were present. And this was their school. It has a very, very long history. It's been almost 2 months now since we met for the last time on December 7th. And a lot of things happened between that meeting and today. A lot of Christmas parties a few weeks later, a number of planning retreats that we did within the administration and with the Board of Trustees a couple of weeks ago. The beginning of the legislative season, yet another legislative season that already is taking place, and I'll spend most of the time talking about legislative presence that we have. And in between, there was an investiture as well. And I think that in addition to the pomp and circumstance that we are used to academically, it's a good opportunity. I looked at it as a good opportunity to renew our commitment to our community and set clear what the goals and the principles of the university are. And it also may mean two things, either that the honeymoon is over or the return to sender is a little bit more difficult after 7 months in the position. People ask me, are you legitimate now? I thought I was legitimate before, but that's a different story. And I want to thank all of you who participated in this, and I know the chair, Audrey, she did a lot of work. Where are you? You're here behind me. She did a lot of work in this area. I've been in front of House committees twice in the last 2 weeks. Initially in front of an ad hoc committee that the Speaker of the House has created to focus on economic development, and then a week later, it was the House Ways and Means subcommittee where we present our financial requests. And I think this is not the end of it. It continues. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be in front of the Senate's Ways and Means subcommittee with a very, very similar theme. Let me start with the special committee that the Speaker put together. And I think the title is Economic Development and Energy Committee. And the reason that they asked me to go there was to talk to some extent about workforce development in the state, but also because the speaker had heard by that time that we are putting an effort together with two other sister institutions, and I'll come back to this in a minute, to create an innovation hub here in the state of South Carolina. I don't know how many of you have heard about the CHIPS and Science Act. This was voted by Congress late last summer, a bipartisan vote, by the way, majority of almost all the Democrats, but a number of Republicans crossed the aisle and voted, including one of our senators, Senator Graham. And the idea that it's called the CHIPS and Science Act is an effort to enhance the ability of the US to manufacture critical components. That's where the CHIPS is coming from. But in addition to this, there was pressure from other areas to extend beyond just manufacturing of chips, but look at what can we do in terms of science and create innovation in the country in parts that in parts of the country where these innovation hubs do not exist. A very specific part of the act is a declaration that through this act, the federal government will create and support 20 innovation hubs in different areas of the country. And these can be, there is a list of potential areas where these hubs should be focusing. The funding from the federal government is going to be at the level of $500 million for each one of these hubs. And the idea is that you create an ecosystem that has the right academic presence and talent development, and at the same time, it has the right environment for the creation of startups that can work with other established companies and create a similar environment to which we see in some parts of the country. When you are talking about innovation hubs, your mind usually goes Silicon Valley, to Austin, to the Research Triangle, to Boston for biotech, et cetera, et cetera. There is a report by a non-profit organization, bipartisan in Washington, that came out in December because of the significance of this act, trying to rank rate which areas of the country could and should get one of these hubs. Interestingly enough, Columbia, South Carolina is listed as number 12 in the country among the entire sites that they have developed. Number 1 in the country is Greenville, South Carolina. And number 9 in the country is Knoxville, Tennessee. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that we lead this effort. I have talked to the president of Clemson. I have talked to the chancellor of the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. We are all aligned. And together, the 3 research universities are going to put this proposal as the leaders. And then there is a whole other network of minority serving institutions, 4-year institutions that we need to build along with the 2 national labs. So that's the reason that I was in front of the legislators, talking to them about how we can create such an innovation hub here in Columbia and what do we need in order to do this. And there was strong support of this. A week later, it was a much broader presentation at the House Ways and Means, asking for the support that we want in order to meet our needs. And of course, I started by highlighting our successes of what we have done over the last number of years, and then committing that as a university, USC, and our system, because when I go to the General Assembly, I speak for the system. I don't speak only for Columbia. How we are committed to the best education and to the best student experience, how we are supporting access and affordability, and we will continue to do this, and how we're committed to innovation in all of the aspects of our operations, as well as we are here to assist the state in economic development areas. Now, the requests were a large number. And I don't know if any of you have looked at the document that we prepared and we submitted through the board in November. That is a public document that says exactly what we have asked from the state. But to give you the highlights, what we're asking for the state this year, and I'm saying all of this because in 2 weeks, we also have the Carolina Day at the Capitol. And a number of our graduates and supporters are going to be there lobbying for us with the same agenda that I'm going to line up. And as citizens and as voters in this area, you could reach out to your representatives and say, you know what, support my university for what we're trying to do for the state. So here's what we are asking from the state. We're asking for 34 million in recurring funds as tuition mitigation. In essence, this is our deal. I was saying if you give us 34 million in recurring funds, we are not going to increase tuition again this year. Of course, this is a negotiation. The governor already in his budget has included a number, and his number is around 10 million. So we're at a distance between the 34 and 10. But we hope that through the process in the General Assembly, we'll get closer to our number than to the governor's number. And what we're going to do with this money is very simple. We will be able to have a salary plan again and finance the salary plan. And at the same time, unlike in previous years, we're facing inflationary pressure on non-salary pieces of our budget. Utilities is an example, and utilities have gone up by 5 million in the last couple of years. So that's why you're asking this money. And that will allow us not to increase in-state tuition. We're asking for 4.5 million in recurring funds to support internships for our students. That's a new idea and a new approach. If we get this money, it will allow us to provide funding to 1,000 students every year to do internships, either internships out there in industry, and then we will provide them with the 4,000 as an incentive that will count towards the next year's cost of attendance, or alternatively also to assist some of the students in different fields that it's difficult for them in these fields to find paid internships, but find a job in a non-profit organization or in any other South Carolina organization and get paid through this process. And this could be a summer internship, could be 1 semester, could be a full year internship. And again, the money that they will get will go towards the cost of attendance the next semester that they are participating. It's a new idea, and I think we have a good chance that the state will support this ask. It will be interesting to see what the other institutions will do because they haven't asked for it, and we'll see how they will deal with it. But I think it resonates well. And we're also asking for 10 million in recurring funds to create a rural brain health network, basically looking at dementia in the rural areas, which there is no healthcare delivery system that deals with the people with dementia in rural areas of the state. So we are talking about creating 5 different hubs, and that will be combined with clinical support that we will be giving, but also in terms of research, because we are building a research center around this area. We're also supporting provisors, and the difference is one is the regular budget. The provisors are initiatives that they are taking with money that they are not in the budget, but they're directed through agencies to different institutions. We're asking for 10 million in recurring funds for nursing, specifically nursing educators. It is very difficult. There's not enough educators in the state that will allow us to increase the number of nurses, and that's something that we got last year, and we want to make it recurring across the state, and that, by the way, is statewide. It's not only USC, it's all universities. We're asking specifically from USC for a proviso with a 2.5 million recurring funds for education, bringing teachers, supporting teachers in early periods. So it's recruiting and retention of teachers. Many teachers, many of our graduates who are teachers and they go in rural areas, they quit. They give up after 2 or 3 or 4 years. Right? And we have already a pilot program in our College of Education that helps them to be successful and retain the positions. That's what we want to see from the state now, becoming permanent. We're asking for an increase in the funding for low-income students. There is a very good program that has been established in the last few years. It provides $3,000 per student. We're asking them to increase the number to $3,500. It's not a huge number, Trust me, for a low-income student, 500 per semester is a big deal. And we want to see this increase. And again, we're advocating for the entire higher education. And then we're also asking for the General Assembly to support the governor's proviso that brings us together with the Savannah River National Lab, Clemson, USC, and SC State. The new contract that they have, also as part of that contract, is money provided by the state for the 3 universities to work with the Savannah River National Lab. And if we get what we ask, we can support 200 students, actually, in our interactions with them. So a lot of recurring programmatic money, and I'm not even done yet. And we're asking for capital projects. We're asking for funds to complete the science and technology building. For those of you who may remember it as the old law school building, only half of it is labs. The rest of it is just a cell. And we're asking for the money to create the classrooms and the labs in there that they are needed. We're asking for innovations in the Cocker Center and the Jones building. And we're asking for money for the Russell House, because the Russell House is aged, let me put it this way. I'm confident that we are going to have a good legislative year, because I have seen the support that exists already. Now, how exactly is this going to translate into numbers? You never know. It takes effort and it takes a process, but I think we are in good shape right now. And I think we're in the right direction when it comes to funding. The best moment that I had, actually, during the House Ways and Means Committee has to do with the Senate, has to do with you. Because one of the members of the committee, he asked me the question. He said, tell me something that you have done at the university. Just one example. Give me just one example of something that the university has done that had showed that you can be nimble. I love the question. And I started talking to him and to the rest of the members there about a discussion that I had with the provost and 3 deans in August, talking about the potential of creating a certificate. Finding something that we can provide across the university, right, and enhance the skills of our students and the experience of our students. And I told them that at that time, it was 5 administrators. I didn't even know that we don't have certificates. So I said, this is something that we never had. And number 2, we had no idea what the curriculum is going to be, how the faculty are going to build it, and how this will happen. That was in August. And in a period of 3 months, less than 3 months, the faculty and the Senate decided to approve the notion of a certificate and take a specific certificate, provide a very exciting curriculum, and actually approve all of this and go through the board. I said, this is nimble. This is in a very short period of time, and we will be able to do this, to offer it next August. And the reason that we're not offering it in January is because we're still waiting for approval from the Commission of Higher Education. That actually created a lot of interest. And I have heard that this story has been repeated as an example of how, yes, we are nimble at times if there is an idea that we all agree with, if there is clear communication, and we put our forces together. So thank you for giving me this great opportunity to tell the story and show what our faculty are doing during this period. Busy semester ahead, for me at least, because of the legislative season, but because of many other things that they will be happening. We are working on a number of initiatives that we'll talk about, and I know also that the Office of Research is about to release the results for the awards in the arts, humanities, and the social sciences next week, and we're making progress with the five institutes. One last thing before I give you the opportunity to ask whatever you want to ask. I want to thank the Senate Executive Committee that we created to have a discussion with me and with the provost every month. This committee actually has met twice since the last time that we met, and they're very interesting, very interesting and very useful discussions that we had. One of the most recent topics had to do with the hiring of the new dean of the graduate school. And we asked the question, what do you expect? What is the best type of graduate school that you think, as the representatives of the Senate, that we need to aspire for, and what are the skills that we should be looking at for a new dean of the graduate school? That was very useful for me and for the provost to have this discussion, and we are moving in all kinds of different issues. So I want to thank. I see a number of the members of the committee that they are here today, and I want to thank them for their participation and the time that they are putting into this. Thank you for paying attention. I know it's been a little bit longer than I usually speak to you, but I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Marco Valtorta, Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Thank you, Mr. President, for this uplifting report. I wanted to ask you whether the issue of Pritchard's Island came up in your discussion with the Ways and Means Committee or any of the other committees you've interacted with.
Yes, it didn't come up, Marco, but what the list that I read is the request for Colombia. USC Beaufort is requesting 1.1 million in recurring funds to be able to do the programming, the research programming and the teaching programming at Pritchard Island. And the governor, it's interesting, it's not in the governor's budget, but we are optimistic that it will be, at least part of it will be in the legislative budget.
Thank you.
For those of you who may not know what we are talking about, there is an island that it was gifted to the University of South Carolina at Beaufort. The donors had concerns about the condition of the island because there was a small building that was created there, which was left there was no maintenance or anything like that. It was falling apart, quite frankly. And they made some statements that, if this doesn't work, it's not what we meant this island to be, and we may change our mind, take it away from the university. And I think the boogeyman was the University of Georgia. We may give it to Georgia. The governor didn't like this at all. We're not going to give land of South Carolina to an institution outside of South Carolina. And I think it has been rectified. The structure that existed has been removed, and the island has returned back to its original shape. The family, the donors are happy about it. They're satisfied. But now the key is, what do we do there, right? We need to do some programmatic work. USCB is very interested to do marine biology there in terms of research, and they're talking about ecotourism as well, to use it as an example, not to be a touristy place, but as an example to train people. And these are great ideas, but they need money.
Thank you.
Eric Robinson, School of Journalism, Mass Communication. As we know, in other states, legislatures are getting involved in what should and should not be taught at universities. Yeah. I wonder if there's any buzz about that here.
Nothing that we have heard yet. I won't be surprised. I will be surprised, actually, if there are no attempts to introduce legislation in different areas. That's their prerogative. I don't expect that that any of such potential proposals will gain a lot of traction, but you never know. We're monitoring very carefully. But there were no questions to me, right? Because that was a possibility that these may come through the House Ways and Means, right? Because there is an opportunity to ask all kinds of different questions. There is no question that was asked to me that was outside of the budget of what we were proposing, or specific question that was about being nimble as a university was the only one that was kind of, more general. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, President Amaritis. All right, we'll next hear from our provost, Arnett.
Good afternoon, and thank you, President Emeritus. Is always a tough act to follow, but I'll keep my remarks somewhat brief today. So I want to let you know that I have completed my listening tour. So I've spent about 80 hours this past semester listening to every department, both faculty and staff, across this campus. I finished up last Friday with the School of Music. And we've had a few small wins. So I don't know how many of you here are in the Wardlaw building, but I see a one hand or two. We were able to get Wardlaw hot water in their bathrooms for the first time since the mid-1970s. So congratulations to those who live in Wardlaw and all the people who helped to make that happen. We also have put new seats. I hear that the seats in our Longstreet Theater were, the foam had all rubbed off and it was quite an embarrassment. So we are in the process of replacing those seats. So those are two small facility wins. I heard a lot of other facility issues, and I have to say I'm also hearing daily from students about facility issues and places to study. So if you have students that you know are between classes in your colleges and you know places that they could be sitting in between, please communicate that to them, because there's a real crunch on study space. The libraries are packed, as Russell House is, as the president just mentioned, in need of revision. I also learned that the good vibe that I felt here when I first arrived and spoke to you in the Faculty Senate a few months ago, even with the completion of all my listening tours, it still exists. There is appreciation and mutuality of respect among colleagues here, which I think is distinctive from any other university that I've been involved in. And there's just great collegiality. There are problems, we're going to be working on them, but I think this place is a special place. And sometimes when you're the frog in the hot water and don't know that, you don't know you're in the hot water, I think you should know this is a special place from that perspective. I wanted to bring forward some issues that we brought forward with our Board of Trustees at our annual retreat, and some of them are timely and I think will need your attention in the next 2 months. So I'm bringing them forward now for your attention. The first is that we must have, as a university, a system where we can accommodate and assess degree completion requirements in an online electronic way. If we don't have that in place for every degree program, by fall of 2023, we will be ineligible for Title IV federal funding. So we have to protect our funding status. Our provost office is working with advising and with On Your Time initiatives to identify those areas where there aren't currently in DegreeWorks. When the DegreeWorks was started here at the university, it was an opt-in. Now it's no longer an opt-in, it's a requirement because we have to do this to continue receiving federal funding. So be sure to check in with your program directors in your colleges to make sure you're on track. I've also have as one of my top priorities as a provost, 4-year graduation rates. Why do I care about that, apart from the fact that it impacts rankings? There are 2 big reasons. First of all, students lose their scholarships after their 4th year. So if they aren't done in 4 years, then they have a large impact on student debt, or they quit coming. So to address the issues that we may or may not know about why students do not retain, I've created a graduation and retention council in the fall semester. And this council has representatives from all over campus that touch any aspect of a student's life. So it's chaired by Shelley Dempsey, who manages On Your Time initiatives. We have the Student Disability Resource Center, University Housing, Financial Aid, Veteran and Military Affairs, Graduate Student and USC Undergraduate Transfer Manager, Student Care and Outreach Team, Multicultural Student Affairs, Registrar, Bursar, Advising, etc. So this is a comprehensive group. They're meeting once a month. And we've already identified several areas that we think of as low-hanging fruit. One of them is in the area that I just mentioned about loss of student scholarships. You also lose them not only after 4 years, but if your GPA falls below 3. And so as students evolve into their 4th year, often they'll hit a 2.9 and they lose their scholarship and drop out. So actually one of our biggest challenges in retention, surprisingly, was in that area of senior retention, that very time when we want to retain. So that group will be meeting. I hope to be bringing you proposals for things that we could do to improve our 4-year retention rate. We are also in the process of revising our core curriculum. Why? It's been 15 years. In fact, President Amoritas wanted me to remind you that he was a dean when the core curriculum was last revised. So he's been a provost and a president and now a president, or chancellor and now a president again. So it's time to revamp it. It's being led here out of the Faculty Senate. We have nominees now from all of the colleges, and that committee is starting to work. Their purpose for this semester, in the spring semester, is to look at what's going on externally in higher education across the US, and Sandra Kelly has been assembling that information and then assessing what we're doing here locally. So we hope to have that completed in this upcoming year. And then we're also exploring right now revamping of our advising programs through the University Advising Center, and also looking at ways to improve success rate in our DFW or bottleneck courses. Those will be not only in terms of identifying ways to get people or students more into tutoring, but also different ways we can teach those courses so that we reduce the DFW rates. So the president mentioned his delight in their digital studies certificate launch. So we're really excited about that launch, and we are now assembling, Shelley Dempsey is coordinating a committee that will oversee this university-wide certificate, because really we hope this is one of 4 university-wide certificates that are developed over the next year, but we need an oversight group to manage that. And so every undergraduate college will be asked to elect one representative to that group, and that group will be formed in the next month. I care a lot about faculty success, and there's been a lot of focus right now on student issues. Imagine Carolina for Faculty we just held last week, and faculty success is an area that we haven't had a lot of investment in, and it's not for lack of desire. I think it's for lack of having a person fully 100% dedicated to that in the provost area. Cheryl Addy does a fantastic job. She wears 4 different hats though, including now interim dean of the graduate school. So one of the things that I've been doing is meeting monthly with the Faculty Welfare Committee. I still hope and plan to develop some faculty well-being program, but it is not yet in any kind of shape or form to share with you yet. But I am working with that committee, just so you know, to see how we move the needle on well-being. One thing that I did as provost in my stand-up calls on a Monday morning before the holidays was to ask all deans to transmit and chairs to transmit information down to faculty that we would have a hiatus on email and text messaging during the holidays unless there's an emergency. And I hope you heard that message. That'll be later in my talk that some of you aren't getting messages, but I'm really hoping that we can identify, that we do need boundaries. We do need to protect our well-being as faculty. And then lastly, under this area, I've met 2 or 3 times now with the Black Faculty Caucus, with the Latino Caucus, and heard a lot of concerns about promotion into the higher ranks of professor, amongst other concerns. That's just one of them. So I assembled all of the full professors of color from these underrepresented groups in January to ask the question, how did you succeed? Are there specific barriers here that I as provost need to be aware of so that we can create appropriate programming? So since that time, I've done a deeper dive into mid-career stuckness, I'll call it. And we have a large number, over 400 associate professors. So I want to do some digging and programming into how we help support people so that they transition from associate to full. So moving on to faculty searches, which I'm sure many of you are concerned about. I'm happy to report we finalized the OIRA search. This is the Office of Institutional Research and Analytics, and we are hiring Donald Miles as the new director of that office. He has been the interim director. We have 4 ongoing dean searches, hospitality, retail, and sports management. Semi-finalist interviews are currently in progress. We expect to have finalists on campus sometime late in February. Our Darla Moore School of Business search is continuing. Jan Bass has agreed and is serving now as interim dean as we continue that search. Social work is an internal search about to be launched. And then finally, yay, today we got the contract signed for the search firm for the vice president and vice provost of Global Carolina. So we have that committee named. We'll be launching into that search. So finally, I just want to wrap up with communication. It's so important to me that you understand what's going on from our office all the way down to individual faculty. So I created the stand-up calls when I got here. These are bi-weekly, very short calls, 15 minutes that tackle one specific issue. And then we always end a call with a shout out to one particular area of the university. And I've asked deans, assistant deans, associate deans, directors, chairs to transmit information down. It sounds like my message around no email during the holidays didn't get to everyone. I'm suspecting that it's not getting information is not cascading down. So I'm open to suggestions. I really want you guys to know what's going on and be in the know. Email doesn't always work. So I'm open to your ideas. So with that, I'll stop and take any questions or suggestions for how to communicate.
Hi, thank you for the report. Abu Stawakoli with College of Nursing. You mentioned the wellness and you are in faculty welfare. I guess we discussed that when you came in beginning your term and about the Platt situation. And it's been 2 years, we brought the issue to Faculty Senate, and I know faculty welfare is working to looking at that fee for faculty and staff, especially a staff issue. And we have not heard anything in terms of the issue. It's been discussed at several places, and I'm hoping we get some resolution for it, because I think that when we talk about wellness, physical activity impact our mental health and our body too. So I was wondering any information.
So what I know about Blatt, and the president may know more, I know that Blatt is funded in terms of its maintenance by our student fees. And so because it's funded from that source, I'm under the understanding that it's devoted to students.
Yeah, but that changes happened during COVID with the director of Platt decided to do it, I guess. What university always had that support for faculty and staff. Suddenly getting fee, I guess to me was very strange. A lot of faculty and staff question about that. So
I hear you, I acknowledge you. I will check in again to see if there's any action, but I think it's because of the student fee issue and it being a student facility that drives that decision.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? All right, Audrey, thank you.
Thank you, Provost Arnett. Next on the agenda are reports of the committee. Our first committee up is courses and curricula.
Thank you and good afternoon. Earlier this month, the Committee on Curricula and Courses met to discuss a number of the proposals submitted to us through the system And so as a result, we put together the report that should have been distributed along with the agenda. And we move to approve 37 total proposals, 10 from the College of Arts and Sciences, 3 from business, 11 from engineering and computing, 4 from the College of Information Science, 2 from the Honors College, 5 from the School of Music, 1 from the Office of Undergraduate Studies, and 1 from the College of Hospitality, Retail, and Sports Management.
Since this motion is coming from a standing committee, there's no need for a second, so the floor is open for discussion.
Marco Valtorta, Department of Computer Science and Engineering. I would like to move that consideration of the course ISCI 340, Cybersecurity and Information Science, be separated from consideration of all other items on in the proposal. And further, I would like to move that this course not be approved. So this is my motion.
We need a second. I see a second. So we're open for discussion? We're open for discussion. Here a counterpoint behind you. Senator Valtorta right behind you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
That's okay. Elise Lewis from the School of Information Science. The letter of concurrence that has been signed by both of our deans has been approved and has been uploaded to CourseLeaf. I believe the committee got that documentation. So I would ask that this goes forward since the deans have both signed the letter of concurrence for this.
You have a counterpoint?
Okay. The proposal was sent back to the Senate. That was sent back to the Senate is exactly the same as the proposal that was sent back to committee, except for the additional document that was just mentioned. I will also mention that before making this motion, I checked through the hierarchical line, and my dean said, "Don't stop."
I'm sorry, I missed that last thing you said.
Yes, I did go through the hierarchical line in my college, and I was told that this was a reasonable thing to do. I hope that's clear.
When you say this, do you mean
The motion that I'm proposing.
the motion? So
Yes.
your dean
So
signed the
my
letter.
dean may have signed the letter, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the college is happy with this proposal.
Okay.
Just to add as a point of information from the committee, no, the proposal that was sent back a few meetings ago, most of the substance has not changed, but I think the concurrence letter was added, which was the sticking point at the time. Yes.
If there are no other comments, then I think we're ready to vote. Is that correct? Does Marco get a second? I'm sorry, you had your 2 times at the well.
Thank you. I thought that the proponent had the chance to summarize before the vote.
No, there's no one else to speak to the question. All right, no, we have to call a vote. So all in favor of separating this particular proposal and rejecting it, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay? That's close. I think we're going to do a hand count if you would, so we'll do it again for aye. If you please raise your hand. Aye for separating. Nays, hold your hand, raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, that's clearer now. Yeah, okay. Then the nays have it. So that course will be considered in total with the rest of the courses. So we're back to discussing the full proposal of courses. Any other comments? All right, I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Thank you.
And thank you. That's all I have.
All right, our next committee up for report is the Faculty Advisory Committee.
So I'm Bob Brookshire, the chair of Faculty Advisory Committee. I'm going to display some of the text that we're going to be discussing, but before I do that, I want to make sure everybody, all the senators, have had a chance to download the QR code and sign in, because I don't want to take that away. If you haven't already signed in with the QR code, please give you just a minute. Anybody?
And again, this is a reminder, if you are a senator, you need to be up front. So the next time we do a vote and you're voting, I can count you. Because if you're a senator and you're in the back half of the room, I will not count your vote.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so the Faculty Advisory Committee has been extremely busy. And as I mentioned to you or reported to you last meeting, we're in the process of proposing revisions to Section 2 of the faculty manual. And I want to just briefly go through our process and rationale with you. So we're proposing a comprehensive review of the Section 2 regulations and policies of the faculty manual. And we're reorganizing that section into 3 parts. Part A is going to be the section that applies to all faculty. Part B is the section that applies to tenured and tenure-track faculty. And Part C will be the section applying to professional track faculty in our vision. And rather than reorganize the entire thing at once, we wanted to go ahead and present this to you in chunks that you can digest a little more easily and take back to your faculty and discuss. So what I want to do first is talk about the reorganization plan, and you can take that back to the faculty. And then there are a few substantive changes that we're proposing simultaneously. So let me blow that up a little bit. Okay, so this on the left is the current faculty manual Section 2 table of contents, and on the right is what we're proposing for discussion for the proposed table of contents. And you can see that we're organizing it into different sections. We're moving some things out of that are currently in mixed in together and separating them to go into other sections. Section B is tenure track faculty, and then Section C, professional track faculty. So we've been concentrating our efforts this semester so far on Section A, as you can see, and we're proposing to make just a few substantive changes. Mostly everything that we're presenting today is organizational. So we'll let you review that. That's on the Faculty Senate website under the table of contents. The first substantive change that we're proposing, rather than just the reorganization, is the text on academic freedom. Those of you that were on the Senate last year will remember that we had an ad hoc committee on academic freedom and freedom of expression that presented a report that recommended some changes to the faculty manual, and that is what we are taking the contents of that report and their recommendation and proposing that for this revision. So the current text of the academic freedom is on the left, the proposed text is on the right. We worked with the chair, Dr. Harrison, of that committee to craft this revision. And we think we've got a pretty detailed, comprehensive statement on academic freedom and freedom of expression that we're proposing. So we'll let everybody take a look at that over the next few weeks, and then we'll bring it up for debate and discussion at the next Senate meeting. But please feel free to share that with your faculty. Another section that we're revising is on annual review. Mainly this is because this section A is the section that pertains to both tenure track, tenured, and also professional track faculty. So we're adding into that section an annual written performance review is required for all faculty. And then a section that each academic unit must define its annual performance review procedures and so on. So this is more procedural than anything else. We're proposing adding a section, a couple of paragraphs on faculty appointments, describing the different kinds of appointments, tenure track, professional track, honorific, and so on, visiting faculty. And this is just basically a definitional kinds of preamble that will go in section A3. Then on grievances, because we are expanding the section on academic freedom, we need to include a procedure for faculty who believe that their academic freedom has been infringed to file a grievance about that. So we've revised the academic grievance procedure section just a little bit to take that into account. Nothing about the grievance process is being changed. We're just reorganizing the way the grievances are being described in that section. Then we're adding a section on integrity and professional conduct at the top of the existing section on research and integrity and research and scholarship. And basically, we're referring people to the Carolinian Creed and the employee standards for ethical conduct. Then with leave, we're just an introductory section about the university having a policy on leave, and then adding a section on paid parental leave, which doesn't currently exist in the faculty manual. And so those are the sections those are the revisions that we're presenting today for you to take back to your faculty and discuss. We're going to have another town hall meeting on February 23rd. Everybody is invited to attend either in person or on Teams, and where we can have some discussions about these changes. We'd be happy to receive your suggestions. At that town hall, we'd also like to consider the revisions to Section B, the sections that pertain to tenured and tenure track faculty. We also understand that the Committee on Professional Track Faculty has been working hard and is going to have a proposal coming forward soon for the content for Section C. So that's where we are in terms of our proposed revisions for your information. And I'd be happy to take a few questions on that. And again, we'll be happy to receive your comments by email, and also if you want to attend the town hall meeting.
Abbas Tawakoli with College of Nursing. I was wondering, what is the time frame to approve the manual? I mean, what you looking for this semester we get done, or?
Right. Here's the idea. We hope we can do this, a very ambitious schedule. So we're presenting these changes for information at this February meeting, and we hope that we'll be able to vote and discuss on those at the March meeting. At the March meeting, we'll present the revisions of Section B, and then we can vote on those at the April meeting. And then we'll be able to have the vote on the entire revision at the general faculty meeting in April. So that's our proposed timeline.
Hi, Frank Thorne, Department of Mathematics. So I passed this around to my department and got some questions and comments, and the main thrust of them seems to be that this is more extensive than my colleagues anticipated. I think they were, imagining there might be some rule changes, but in fact there are some elaborate statements of what the university values. And I think there was some skepticism of why this was necessary, and I guess the question is, what's the rationale for including these kind of statements?
Well, I think our rationale is that the faculty manual is not supposed to be just a policy manual, but it's also supposed to be statements about what the faculty of the university are all about, what we're all about, and what the university is about. So.
Thank you.
I think another way to look at it is that when we bring in new faculty, we want them to be able to read the faculty manual and get a feeling for what the university faculty, what our principles and procedures are. Other questions? Okay. So now we're going to bring up the budget committee. Okay, so we do have a proposal for a vote. As we described to you in the last Faculty Senate, we're proposing to add this section on budget committees. This is actually not in Section 2, this is in Section 1 of the faculty manual. We have made some small revisions since the last, based on feedback that we got from you and from some of your faculty. So this is our proposed addition.
Because this motion is coming from a standing committee, it doesn't need a second, so I open the floor for questions.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Yankee from the International Business Department. Thanks so much to the Faculty Advisory Committee's work on this, which is a very important step, I think. So as I've mentioned, I think it was back in the November meeting, the Moore School last year revised our bylaws at the unit level to create a similar committee. And I think we would all agree that it's a budget committee is one of the more important conduits for information that helps shared governance at the unit level. So this is very important. So we were in email communication. So I have a couple of remaining questions. So I serve as the chair of the faculty budget committee for the Moore School. So we've been kind of doing this for a few months now. There's a bit of a learning curve. So I ask these questions or make my proposals only in the spirit that it helps all units. So I have a couple, start with a question or two. The first is that it's titled the Budget Committee. First paragraph tells us that it's going to be representative of a unit, but has to be a majority of elected, its majority members should be from the faculty. The second paragraph says that the purpose of the committee is to advocate for faculty priorities on matters of budget and budgetary policy and that sort of thing. So the second paragraph sort of has a faculty advocacy or a direct link into the faculty. So I'm curious why the recommendation is that the committee should not be constituted of faculty members, but only a majority of faculty members. The obvious pairing to that is staff. And so I would suggest, based on our experience, that staff who are senior enough at the unit level are direct reports to the dean, and therefore the transparency mechanism for staff doesn't apply so much at that level because they report directly to the dean. At lower levels of staff, issues of budget are likely less relevant to them. So I don't know if I should ask all my questions at once or sequentially.
Well, I can address that one a little bit. We're interested in having, our proposal is to allow each college or other unit to constitute their own budget committee the way that they want to. If I were going to put one together in my college, I would want a person from the dean's office who is the budget person to be on that committee, either as a voting member or as an ex officio. So I wouldn't feel like I would have any kind of input into the process without that person being in the room. It might be that one college would say, okay, this is a faculty committee, it's only faculty. Another college would say, okay, it's a faculty committee, but it also has some staff. It's going to be, I think, better to have a little more flexibility.
Sure, and I understand this. So again, this is just in the spirit of feedback. The third paragraph says that the committee shall meet regularly with the dean and senior administrative officers of the college. And so the way the value of the faculty budget committee at the Moore School is that it is a conduit from sources of information who know about the budget to the rest of the unit that doesn't. And so our experience there would be that the kinds of senior administrative officers that you're describing to be on the committee are the ones who possess that information. Therefore, the committee would meet with those people, right, as specified in the third paragraph, to then help that information flow. So that I think we have the same goal here, but the way we're functioning is that the kinds of, a budget director, senior administrative staff, they already have that information. And so by having a requirement that they meet with a faculty budget committee, it facilitates the transfer of that information because nobody gets to vote. For very good reasons, the deans get to have decision-making authority over the budget. This doesn't provide the budget committee with any kind of voting authority. It's an information and it's kind of an advise and consent role. And so it's fundamentally about moving that information from those senior staff in the dean's office into the faculty. And for that reason, we find that a committee comprised of faculty members to then meet as specified in the third paragraph works for us quite well. People can disagree, and that's perfectly reasonable. Just by feedback of, because those of us who have it already adopted this are now going to have to play by this rule. I think this will supersede whatever our current agreement is. So that's my first comment. The second is that I'm not completely satisfied, and then I'll be quiet. Completely satisfied with the last paragraph where the committee shall be properly oriented and trained in details of the university budgeting process. I think it would be more useful to these committees to reword that to say the unit level budgeting process to make it explicit that we are sort of attending to unit level issues, not issues at the central level. Those are my two comments for whatever they're worth.
Mark Makata, Health Promotion, Education, and Behavior. I was on the committee that from the AAUP that helped to sort of get this idea rolling. And a couple of things. The majority faculty members, I think one of the key things there is the elected faculty members. It can be all faculty members, but what we are trying to ensure is that the faculty members are not majority appointed by anybody. So I think that the key there is that we wanted to make sure that whoever's on the committee, it's all faculty and staff, that at least 3 out of the 5 are elected by the rest of the faculty. So that's something that
Or 5 out of the 7, or 7 out of the
exactly.
7,
But
right?
that's really the key there is the elected part rather than the makeup of the committee of itself. And then I actually had a question for you about if we want to, and this might be out of order, but if we want to approve this, but we also want to make changes how that process might work, because those of us on the committee actually did like the suggestion that, some of the word changes about the budget and about, university versus unit, we did find, would be helpful. So would we have to approve this and then make revisions, or do we send it back and then, like, how would that process work?
We can amend this proposal, so
Okay.
then we would have a motion to amend and a second, and discussion and vote on that, and then we go back to a vote on the full amended version. Am I correct on that?
You can ask,
We would
propose an amendment.
we make an amendment, and then we eventually vote on the whole thing again, right? Okay, yes, that's the procedure. So if you want to do that, we can vote on, you can make a motion to make an amendment. We have another, if we can just go in order.
Dan Brackman, College of Law. It seemed to me, in view of the response and some of the original criticism, that you could make it clear that the first paragraph is sort of setting a floor for the minimum that's acceptable for the committee and not trying to define exactly what it is, by amending it to say each college shall decide an appropriate size and makeup for this committee.
That's an interesting suggestion. Again, that should also be amended.
Right, and I can propose that, but I don't want, my understanding is if I do that right now, all of a sudden that's all we get to talk about is my motion.
Yeah,
And I think it benefits to get sort of all the
Yeah.
ideas for amendments out.
Okay, so hold that thought. Thank you. Senator Manette.
Hi, Mark Manette from English. I have a proposal for an amendment that I think meets the concern about expressed by Senator Yankee about making sure there's required training at the unit, the big U unit level, in terms of budget matters. So let me check my notes here and see if I maybe somebody should write this down too, but I have it. So I'd like to propose that we amend it by following in the following way: by adding "and college" between university and budget in the second line of the second paragraph.
Is this editable right here? Is this editable?
No.
Okay.
You found so
Can
far?
I just, a little out of order, but Senator Makata, is that what you were hoping for as an amendment?
That was one thing we discussed, but I'll let Senator Manette sort of take it from here.
Okay, let Senator Manette drive it, but it's basically where you were going with that part. Okay, so there's a proposal to amend this revision in paragraph, you should be doing this, right? Paragraph 4, where it says the committee shall be properly oriented and trained in the details of the university
So
and.
there's two places. So
Okay.
the first is in the second paragraph, where it says the committee will serve as a liaison between the college administration and the faculty on matters pertaining to the university budget. I'd like to propose we add and college between university and budget. And then in the fourth paragraph, the first sentence, the committee shall be properly oriented and trained in the details of the University of South Carolina Columbia budgeting process. Add between Columbia and budgeting, Columbia and college budgeting processes. So make process plural and add and college between Columbia and budgeting in the second line of the fourth paragraph. And maybe that
You need to.
Well, I think, so at the top line, it defines all these big U units as colleges for the purpose of the,
Not units.
right.
Schools and colleges.
Right, but that includes the university libraries, the way it's being defined
Yeah,
here.
director of college.
I think, somebody can correct me if that's wrong.
Columbia. The entire thing is just revisions. Okay, so the revision, as I understand it, is in the second paragraph, this committee will serve as a liaison between the college administration and the faculty on matters pertaining to the university and college budget.
Or I guess it should be budgets, maybe? Plural? Budgets, plural?
Okay. University and college budgets, right? Okay, and then in the fourth paragraph, trained in the details of the University of South Carolina, Columbia, and college budgeting process.
Processes, yeah.
Processes.
All right, so we need a second for this motion to amend. All right, so the floor is open to discussion about this amendment.
Bill Smith from Criminology, Criminal Justice. I didn't have discussion. I was hoping I'd get up before the second was taken. It's a minor technical issue, but if you're going to add the word college, you should also add school because the introductory paragraph references both.
If you look in the opening sentence,
I'm talking about the amendatory language that you're discussing.
Yes.
Where it adds college, but it doesn't add school.
But in the opening sentence, it defines college as college, school, including libraries, hereafter college. So we're using that term college in the rest of the document.
I'll withdraw the comment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris Yankee again. I just wanted to say that I support the amendment for the following reason, which is the Budget Committee's understanding of budgetary matters consists of really two elements. One is the internal budgeting process that is unit specific, and the second is the unit's financial relationship with Central, which is why you should not just replace university with unit, but instead have them both together. It's a good idea. Sorry, or school? Yeah, college.
But not units.
College.
Units are perfect.
Are there any other comments on the amendment? All right, hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment passes. I believe we had another amendment regarding, forgotten now already. Oh, yes, the committee should be made up of a majority. You had a recommended alternative to that?
I cleaned up my suggestion. I would propose that we strike the last two sentences of the first paragraph and replace it with the following. Each college shall decide on an appropriate size and makeup for this committee, provided that it shall have no fewer than 5 members and be made up of a majority of elected faculty members.
So you're going to have to read that again slowly so we can.
Or if you have it written down, I can take.
I do if you can read my writing.
All right.
Let's try.
I know.
Yeah, we'll try.
No, I empathize with that statement.
Okay, so the proposed amendment is to strike the second and third sentences of paragraph 1 and replace them with each college shall decide on an appropriate size and makeup for this committee, provided that it shall have no fewer than 5 members and be made up of a majority of elected faculty members.
We need a second for this amendment. All right, the floor is open for discussion.
Don't let him have that back yet.
Kay Edwards, History. I was hoping I could get the person who made the change to explain to me how that is in any way different than what is currently up there. It seems like all we've done is rearrange parts of two sentences and it says exactly the same thing.
I was trying to address the question that came out initially where someone asked whether or not this ought to be a committee of all faculty members and it ought to not mandate that. And the response that I understood from the committee was that a college or a unit could do that if they wanted to, but the committee didn't seem to want to force everyone to do that if the units didn't want to. And it seemed like there was an uncertainty about whether or not the college had as much freedom to construct the makeup of the committee in terms of who was on it as they do to adjust the size. So I'm just basically trying to add the makeup of the committee to make it clear that the college has some discretion there, provided they meet the minimums that are listed.
Go
Senator
ahead.
Makata.
Mark Makata, HBEB. Can I make a suggestion about that sentence while we're discussing the amendment? Or shall I wait until?
Yeah, okay.
So one thing that we discussed is that rather than each college, as we're discussing, it should say the faculty of each college, so that so we could limit sort of administrative influence on the size and makeup. And since we're discussing that sentence, we thought maybe this would be something we could discuss as well.
Amend again, amend.
No, you can't. You can do a secondary amendment.
So this is a secondary amendment to change the wording from each college to the faculty of each college, to make it clear that the faculty are making this determination. I need a second on that. All right. Any discussion on that, going from college to faculty of each college? Good. All right. Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. So we'll continue with the full amendment now, saying the faculty of each college instead of each college. We need to read it again. Senator, you're getting your exercise.
Read it back in full with the amendment.
Here we go. And you're not getting this back. The opening paragraph will say, each dean-led college or school, including the university libraries, hereafter college, shall have a representative committee that advises on the allocation of funds to its programs. The faculty of each college shall decide on an appropriate size and makeup for this committee, provided that it shall have no fewer than 5 members and be made up of a majority of elected faculty members.
Discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Excellent. So that is the vote on the amendment. Now we're ready to continue discussion on the vote of the revision to the faculty manual here presented.
As amended.
As amended. You really want that pat back. All right, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, you all have faculty budgets, committees now.
I'd like to thank the senators for their thoughtful and collegial input on this process. and hope it will continue as we revise Section 2 of the faculty manual.
At the risk of bogging, Madam Chair, may I make one additional comment?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Everybody, this is a very positive and important moment. I know at the unit, at the school level, what am I supposed to say? College. At the college level, you know, the budget transparency between dean's offices and departments and faculty at times can be kind of contentious. The Moore School was no different in this regard, but I'm very pleased to report that although these conversations can be somewhat difficult at the beginning, they lead to an incredible amount of shared understanding between both sides and are a great source of productive conversation and positive ways forward in shared governance for both sides. So as you take this news back to your units, by which I mean departments, just, you know, ask at the department and at the school level, right? Choose your budget committee members carefully because this is really a positive thing. Thank you for all your time.
Excuse me, I'm taking a little privilege from the chair here. What y'all have done was really good and really well organized. As you saw from the chair of the faculty committee, Professor Brookshire, is that next month you'll do this 6 times over. So if you do have an amendment and you can write it down, as we noticed, that speeds things along. Again, communicate with your schools and your faculty, because if this is 6x times just this, and this was simple, go 12x or whatever. All right. So I want to commend the organization. I want to commend you all for being organized and having the good discussion on this. Come prepared next month because you've got that much more work, and therefore I've referenced back to what I said earlier.
And so we hope to get your participation in the town hall, or we also hope to hear from you by email. So thank you.
All right, great. Next up is a report from the secretary, but she became ill today, so she will not be providing that report. She did pass on to me a request that you fill out the form for volunteering, which it's a do-it-yourself form that has been passed down from secretary to secretary. It does have some problems in it, so when you complete that, please be clear on your unit and your title. So we're trying to make sure we have representation across units, but also across different ranks and paths, tracks, tenure track, professional track. So if you can include that information, that's really helpful for us when we start constructing the committee. So please do volunteer and tell your, well, not just you, I mean, really, you're already doing service. So thank you for your service as faculty senators, but make sure your colleagues back at your units are completing that form. Anyone can be in a standing committee, and you don't have to be a senator to be in a standing committee. So, many hands make light the work. So I encourage you to try to get your colleagues to participate. All right, so that gets us to my report, which I'll keep really brief because we've been a little long today, but we accomplished a lot. So thank you. I want to congratulate the president. I don't think he's here anymore, but I want to congratulate him on his installation. But also, I observed, I was participating in the installation, so I listened to his speech. If you haven't done so, I encourage you to do so because it really does kind of set the tone, I think, of his leadership. I also observed his presentation in the board retreat, which was a really critical moment. It's our big pause before we start the next, wave under a new composition of the board. We have new board members being elected, and also Provost Arnett's presentation at the retreat, both of which make me really excited that we have leaders that are really smart, know what they're doing, and have the right values around education and research. And then also I did go to the House Ways and Means meeting. I've never gone to one of those before, so that was fun to watch. Again, very impressed with the way our leadership is representing our university and advocating for the resources we need to do the things that we all share and, a strong commitment to regarding academic programming and research. So thank you to both President Amoritas and Provost Arnett. I wanted to also just remind you that you got an email. The Staff Senate is doing a fund drive, really contribution drive for school supplies for the Success Center. These are supplies for students who use the Success Center, like many support units on campus. They're a bit under-resourced, so your contributions are very much welcome. And I think it's really nice that the Staff Senate has, chosen this as a cause. We have none. Maybe we should think about a cause. Also, again, the town hall, we had initially scheduled it, I think, for the 16th or 15th or something, but we learned that was actually the time for a town hall sponsored by the Division of Research, and I just want to make a plug for that. That I think is a really significant move the Division of Research is doing to engage a consulting firm that's going to help us work the grant system a little bit more effectively. So I encourage you to go to that. I think that's very important. And a quick note about ChatGPT. I know everybody's reading way too much on that. It seems to be every time I turn around, there's a new article on it. Everyone is addressing this, and I will hopefully have a longer term plan that the faculty can participate in, but it's really a multidisciplinary, multifunctional solution we're going to be looking at that involves student conduct, the student services, faculty, Center for Teaching Excellence, and so forth. So that under the provost's leadership, we'll be hearing more about that, and I think some of us will be tapped on the shoulder to help out, the Courses and Curricula Committee, perhaps, the Standards and Petition, individual faculty. So be on the lookout for that, but I would also urge you to go back to your units. This is even down to the departmental level, because the pedagogical implications are unique to your discipline. And we need to triage right now, because you obviously can't change your syllabus in the middle of the semester, but the course requirements within your syllabus are arguably going to be impacted by the greater awareness and use of artificial intelligence like ChatGPT. So please go back to your units and talk to them about that. And give you a shout out to the College of Arts and Sciences and their Associate Dean for setting up some I think some webinars for you guys to help equip you, and I hope your other colleges on campus do the same. So we just need to do something like right now to get through this semester, and then we'll do something to kind of learn how to deal with AI as we go forward. And I welcome any suggestions that you have of how the faculty should be engaged in this process. So we have a lot to learn, but there are some wonderful opportunities with that. So I think that's all I have to remark on for today. So thank you so much. It went a little bit longer, but again, we got a lot accomplished. One other thing, I just want to make a pitch for the changes we're making in the faculty manual. Part of it is just clarity, but the other part of it is to really make sure all faculty, no matter what track they're on or what stage they are in their career, are being fairly evaluated and recognized and helped through the process of their career, through the journey on their career. And that's really the ultimate goal there. So that involves pulling out the evaluations we're doing for the different people in different stages and in different tracks. So it's really in the interest of advocating for the faculty. So that's it. Just so keep your eye out for those town halls and read that stuff, talk to your constituents, come back to us. So anyway, have a great month. I'll see you in March. Oh, wait, no. I'm supposed to go through old business. Any old business? Sorry, any new business? Anything for the good of the order? All right, motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor? Thank you. Bye-bye.